This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Lewis Wilson, our honored Patreon member and SwitchCat.
Hi everybody, I'm KC.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for the Nintendo Switch Bon Vivant.
Ooh, that's fancy.
It is. And we are living the good life this week because, well, we have a lot of, just feel like a very outdoorsy kind of things going on. We have a lot of stuff to talk about with Pokemon games and a lot of tie-ins with Pokemon Go, which is, I'm excited because that gets me talking about that game on this show.
No, speaking of which, I've heard you were going camping sometime this weekend. You might be able to pull out Pokemon Go during that, right?
I hope so. I'm gonna be heading up to the Adirondacks. It's one of our favorite areas to go camping. And, I like to bring up Pokemon Go. I mean, I always have it on my phone, obviously, but it's usually kind of a mixed bag when you bring it up there because whereas it is nice to go adventuring and look for Pokemon in the middle of the wilderness where you feel like most appropriate, cell reception kind of gets splotchy up there, especially when we're on the deep woods hiking trails. So
that was always kind of a disappointing aspect of Pokemon Go when I still played it. We would always go to rural areas where we'd expect wilderness to pop up or something. But since the cell reception was so low, no Pokemon would spawn. And even going through trail routes, it never really spawned that many Pokemon, and it was a little bummer.
Yeah, because I mean, it used to be based totally on the Pokestops, and but now, and those were usually based off of what got the most cell reception, so it just kind of led to that. But they did add an update a while back that added like hiking trails to the map in the game, and they set the hiking trails to actually spawn Pokemon. And so the last time I went camping, maybe like 6 months ago, I would find them on trails, even out in the wilderness. As long as I got any reception from the GPS to know where I was, as long as the GPS can tell me where I was, I can get spawns almost anywhere as long as I was on a marked trail.
You know, that's actually super reassuring because that's one of the big problems I had. We would go out and it's just nothing there. But now that they added trail information, that's pretty cool. Are you going to bring your Switch too, though?
I will be bringing my Switch. This is going to be the weekend where I also put the battery, my Anchor, out to the real test. I mean, I've had to bring it around before, and I would charge it if I don't go on too many long trips away from my outlet. Even when I would go on vacation, there's a plug on the plane. There's always a hotel to recharge at, and sometimes the battery just be a backup for days where I didn't remember to charge it, or I'm like on the train, like, oh, I'm at 10%, let's charge it here. This will probably be the first time where I really will need to see how many full system charges I can get over the weekend, as I won't have any place to really charge throughout this. So
so you're not just glamping, you're actually camping.
Oh yeah, no, we go with a real deal tenting and all that sort of stuff. We have some good equipment though, but we it's all tent. The only charge I might be able, when we're driving the car into town to pick up some supplies, we could charge it in the car for a little bit, but that's about it. It doesn't really give us too much time.
Yeah, so I actually have a pretty packed weekend myself too. Mm-hmm. I'm going to DreamHack Austin this weekend.
Oh, so I've heard the name. I only heard of DreamHack because they mentioned that there were some Shadowverse tournaments at one of them actually in Paris, so I guess they go around to different cities. What is this?
They're kind of like the Penny Arcade Expos or Micro E3s, where it's a convention that's dedicated more towards the LAN gaming experience.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's an expo hall with a lot of gaming companies and gaming hardware, PC hardware, all that stuff. And I'm actually going to be participating in the 24-hour LAN party.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm going to be gaming hardcore this weekend. There's going to be League of Legends, Overwatch, CSGO, Rainbow Six Siege, StarCraft. It's going to be a ton of fun. But what I found really fascinating was that there was going to be Pokken Tournament DX exhibitions there too.
Jealous.
And it's awesome because it's not just a Pokken Tournament DX competition that you can join. they're actually going to dedicate stage time to maybe some professional Pokken players so that people can watch Pokken Tournament on an esports-like stage.
Oh, that's really cool. That's great.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see that since, as much as we love Pokken Tournament, we can't dedicate nearly as much time as we'd want to, but I want to see what the most dedicated players pull off.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I especially want to see if the new characters actually are catching on with the pros.
I'm just so pumped to see that there is respect for this game as a fighting game. DreamHack is really particular about which games it features in its exhibition stages. So Pokken Tournament is up there with Hearthstone, with StarCraft, with CSGO. I love it.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah. I also just was contemplating, I'm about to possibly buy my tickets for PAX Unplugged in October. Because Philly, really close to here. It's a 90-minute drive, so I'm thinking of maybe going to PAX Unplugged this time.
Yeah, that might be something to consider. I've always wanted to go to PAX Unplugged. I think it started last year.
Last year was the first year, and for anyone who's not familiar, it's the PAX, Penny Arcade Expo, but all like board games, unplugged, no,
tabletop.
Not video games, tabletop, card games, that sort of thing.
I wonder if they would count handheld gaming in the mix.
I mean, just as much as we have tabletop gaming at PAX propers, I'm sure there's going to be some video gaming at the PAX Unplugged.
Well, mostly handheld gaming, if anything. But yeah, I agree. It'll be a fun time regardless, and I'm jelly.
It's just something I can go to for one day because I can just drive there. 90 minutes to drive. I can get a hotel for the one night and hang out and just in the city with some friends for the next day.
Yeah, it sounds like fun.
All right, but we have a really packed show because we have, it's whenever there's Pokemon news, it has a special place in our hearts. So we are going to cover all the reveals today in depth, and we're going to hear what you guys have to say about all the new announcements for Pokemon games, as well as we have a couple of game reviews. I've been playing the Banner Saga this week, and you've been... this isn't a expansion of Splatoon, is it? That you're playing?
It's not. I've been playing Inksplosion.
Okay. So we have all that, of course, other news, new releases, and, of course, our System Switch picks of the week. So why don't we move into all that now and start the game time?
Let's do it!
All right, game time, and I am anxious to talk about the game that I picked up this week, which is the latest of the, I guess, big name mobile games.
Kind of, yeah. Was this on iOS or Android or anything like that?
This was on everything.
Gotcha.
It definitely was on mobile. That's where I saw it all the time, and I didn't pick it up only because I just... it was like a full price kind of game on there, and I just avoid those generally on iPhone unless it's something that I know. But I kind of regret not picking this up back then because Banner Saga hits a lot of marks in types of games.
Yeah, I imagine it would. Now it's really interesting and fun that we bring this up on the podcast because it was kind of the big announcement during the Nindy showcase a couple months ago. And people were kind of disappointed to see that this was such a big deal. No one really understood why Nintendo makes such a big deal out of this.
I'm guilty of that as well. Like I said, this is something that I'd never really paid that much attention to. I knew it was kind of a strategy game, but I didn't know what else it was able to mix into it as well. And I'm here to tell you guys everything that you might need to know as to why they really hyped this game up and why it is deserving of your attention, especially considering its sequel is coming out this next week also, in case you want to go and start this whole saga going up.
So you played Banner Saga 1, and Banner Saga 2 is coming out, and Banner Saga 3 was announced on the showcase. So there's a lot of content that's coming out for this franchise or IP.
Yes. So to give you guys the general setting of this game, it's a very Norse kind of game where it takes place in a very snowy kind of region. It definitely has a Scandinavian vibe to it, but it's more fantasy. It's not like based on any real world stuff. It is its own fantasy setting, as exemplified by the fact that this has two main races in there. There are humans, but then there's also the Varl, which are giants, basically people who are at least 2 or 3 times, the size of people, and they have big giant horns coming out of their heads, and they're just these, giant dudes. They're like the real Vikings, and it has this setting of there used to be this group, or they're the evil race, which are called the Dredge. They're just these very creepy looking armored black creatures, and they used to ravage the land. They did evil stuff. Humans and Varl teamed up, sent them back, and now there's kind of an uneasy truce between humans and Varl while the Dredge are kind of away.
So there's kind of a political backdrop to this whole situation.
Well, there is, because this game definitely has also some overtones of like a Game of Thrones kind of vibe to it as well.
Yeah.
All right. It is a world, there is some of that politics. There's definitely some brutal nature to the things that happen in this game. Nothing graphic, but it's a little graphic. There's some decent blood splatters as things die, and there's a lot of description in what happens. There's a decent amount of narrative in this game as well, and they'll describe things in a cutscene, maybe like, and then the mace came down and crushed his head.
Whew, jeez.
But the main game story starts out with you are this one Varl who's just basically a tax collector for the Varl King, and you're going around to a town, and you kind of you start off just from this one guy's point of view who's kind of a historian, and you get pulled into a little bit of like, we can't give you the taxes until you help beat these bandits, right? Whatever. And then you get pulled into the first type of gameplay in this, is that it's one part of this game is tactical RPG, where you have, grid, you have enemies, and you have your units, and you move, you do different attacks. But this game adds a lot of different mechanics that very much changes how you would typically play a tactics battle.
Okay,
out.
so there are special mechanics in the battle system itself that you're referring to. Okay.
So the very most primary thing I want to point out is how battles are fought is that you have like your strength stat, and that counts for both your offensive strength and is your hit points. So as a character takes damage, they have less strength to deal damage. All right.
Interesting.
So that at the same time, there's an armor stat, and armor you can deal damage when you attack someone. You either target their armor or their strength, right? And so, if you want to target their strength, that's you trying to weaken them and kill them. If you target their armor, that's how you make them more vulnerable to future attacks. And if your strength is ever lower than their armor, there's like a chance that you just won't damage them, that you'll just like pling off their armor, depending on how big the gap is. So there's those two things to manage. Then there's the fact that turns are taken regardless of how many units are on each team. Let's say like I have 4 guys and they have 7. It's always one guy from my team, then one guy from your team, then one guy from my team, and one guy from your team. Regardless of if I'm outnumbered, I'm still going to have one of my guys go in between each of yours.
All right. So if you have one person and they have 7, you essentially have that one person go multiple times?
It won't happen when there's only one guy left on a team. It breaks out. There's a thing called pillage mode, and then it just breaks out into all 7 can gang up and kill him. But as long as there's 2 guys left,
they'll alternate?
They'll alternate.
Cool. Okay.
So this changes up things a lot because it doesn't necessarily pay to just gang up and kill one guy, because the more guys that you leave alive, the less frequently each one gets to act.
Gotcha.
So what you actually want to do in a battle is weaken guys as much as you can, and then not start killing them off until you think you could start wiping out their whole team.
You see, that's actually a really unique take on the tactics strategy.
It's weird. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but I'm really willing to overlook that because it adds such a fun and fresh take on battle. And especially with mixing this strength armor thing going on here, it really presents a unique take on how to engage in battles, and there's a lot of ways to bypass that. It's like, I don't have a lot of strength to kill, to deal damage to this guy. His armor is really good, but I do have this ability that makes him bleed, and he'll just take 1 damage for every step he moves if I make him bleed, right? So that's a way I can maybe bypass armor, or, there's a lot of really good effects. Also, there's the fact that you have the different units of the Varl and the humans, where Varl tend to be really big power units, like they're your tanks pretty much in the game, but they also take up 4 spaces. And it makes them very tough to maneuver in a battle, and they don't move many spaces too. So it's very easy for, if you don't really precisely position your guys, you could be stuck with your powerhouse Varl, who just can't get next to anybody because, all these pesky humans are in his way. And it also means they're a bigger target. So since they're 4 spaces, it's easier for people to surround them and maybe just, box them into a place. So even though they're these powerhouses, they kind of balance that out in a few different ways too.
Okay.
They're still awesome though. They're still definitely superior to humans in battle.
That's racist.
Yeah, it's speciesist as anything.
Speciesist.
Now, between battles, the game is not only about these battles, and they also have a lot of other cool stuff, like ways you promote them, and you get this renown for how many kills they get in battle, and that's also your currency. Like, when you earn renown in battle, you'll spend that in the other modes, and the other modes of the game is, so after a battle and then the story progresses, you will there's a lot of narrative. And then it almost becomes like a Telltale game where you have a lot of choices to make. And a lot of them are just dialogue choices, or maybe like, what do you want to say to this guy? If you say something nice about his new shirt he bought, he'll wear it the rest of the game. If you don't like it, maybe he'll change clothes later, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But there's a lot of choices that have effects on the storyline in rather significant ways, including very much like I said, like in the Telltale kind of game, characters will just die or live based on choices you make. And they're not obvious. And they're not as beat you over the head moral choices like in like a Walking Dead kind of game. There's choices that don't have obvious repercussions. And I like that. Like there's a scene, because you're going to change point of view a lot throughout this game. It is very much like Game of Thrones, where it's like this chapter, all right, I'm that historian tax collector guy.
Right, so it switches perspective.
Right, then it changes over to this human hunter on the other side of the world who's experiencing a whole other storyline. He's engaged in the dredge are coming back, and, it's kind of like the White Walkers. Again, if we're going to make these Game of Thrones kind of things.
Lines.
It's kind of like that. They're coming back and they're now attacking, and he's caught up in all these refugees trying to escape, and you're just trying to save your clan and get them to safety. But you have a daughter who doesn't want to she's a good warrior, but she doesn't you want to kind of protect her, and at the same time she doesn't like killing humans if she can avoid it. So you have to decide there's some points where you choose no, stay here and be safe, or come on this dangerous mission. And it's not like choosing one or the other has an obvious repercussion to the storyline,
right,
but it makes sense. Like, whatever you choose does have a very important effect on certain things in the game.
Okay, so how is the storyline laid out, really? How do you interact with it? Because I know the story is really a big deal and why people love Banner Saga so much.
It is a great story. I'm very much into these characters. There's a lot of cool personalities that are coming out of this. Like I said, Rook here, he's that hunter I was just talking about, and he has this really believable relationship with his daughter. And like I said, she doesn't like the idea of fighting other people, which comes up as you're trying to protect your people, but obviously there's those who are like, no, we refuse to let you into this safe place. Do you want to fight them for it, or do you want to find another way around it? It's very natural. Nobody feels like, oh, this person's just a black and white moral compass in this way or another. People are a little more complex than that. And
right.
And so the story plays out through these cutscenes. What happens is, a lot of the times after you make certain decisions and between major scenes, is the people are in this travel mode, and you go to this side-scrolling map where you see your people, your caravan, all traveling, and then things come up, like decisions to make. Like they'll say, a couple of people in your clan or in your caravan have brought this dude up in front of you, and they said, this drunk just almost burned down half our supplies because he tripped over the ropes, and you have to decide, well, do I want to punish him? Am I going to banish him from the thing, or am I just going to like tell him never drink alcohol again? And then you have some decisions to make. And based on those decisions, they affect things like the morale of your people, the supplies you have, because you have to have a certain amount of, you have to worry about supplies for the road. So it has a little bit of that Oregon Trail feel to it as well.
That's cool.
Maybe you'll take on battles. There's a lot of battles that are completely avoidable depending on the decisions you make in this travel mode.
But that's actually a really cool thing because it makes each specific battle feel a bit more meaningful.
It does. And they give you a reason. Like I said, sometimes there's a reason to avoid it, or maybe you should just engage, and maybe that'll have an interaction. Maybe I'll let these guys go because I don't feel like it's a good time to expose my people to danger, but then maybe I'll find out that by not fighting them now, they go off and kill somebody else down the road. Who knows?
So it really sounds like an epic story or an epic experience overall.
All right, I will say, just to give some people some of the epic storyline stuff, one of the plot lines of one of the characters is there was supposed to be this big summit where the Prince of the Varls came to the human capital, and now the human prince is trying to come to the Varl capital. And he's kind of like your snot-nosed little... He's not exactly a Joffrey because he's not a total jerk, but he's kind of a snot. He's kind of a little snot, but he's kind of earning my respect in some regards. So, but while he's coming on this political mission to to the Varl capital is when all this breaks loose, and so it's a decision of, all right, do we send him back to his country and just get him out of here, or do I continue bringing him to our capital because now we need more than ever to seal this alliance?
And that has repercussions of its own. And supposedly, if you pick the wrong or a bad decision, characters might die, and they might die permanently, right? I
have seen several characters just snuffed out like nothing. It is very Game of Thronesy in that regards too. There's characters that I've recruited out of nowhere because I chose a certain way as well. It's not always... It doesn't always make me feel bad because, like, even when the characters die, it just fits this very harsh, brutal world. And I haven't yet experienced any deaths that I felt were totally out of nowhere or not justified. So it doesn't leave me with that, oh, how do they do that to this character? That was so bad. But I feel like there might be one coming.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You wouldn't put it past this game.
I'm in that mode where I'm worried about getting attached to certain characters because I'm afraid, like, oh my god, this guy's so cool, but is he gonna die? I don't know.
Yeah, I know how that feels, Casey.
I know.
Literally the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones that I was crushed every time.
So this is why I say I really like this game, because it's got great, tactical combat. It has a cool choose your own adventure style plot line. It has this resource management game, Oregon Trail element to it as well. And it has this really cool art style. The animation is so Lord of the Rings, the animated movie from way back in the day.
Yeah, that's so weird.
It's like a weird, unique style that just fits so well, and all the characters are just, I don't know, they just add little animations, like even when you're on their character stat screen, they all just have like a little animation of like wind blowing or their eyes moving while you're choosing what stats to boost up and what special abilities unlock.
When I was looking into this game, I saw that the in-combat animations looked really detailed for what it was. And I think that's what was kind of striking to me. I didn't really see how any of the in-between storylines or cutscenes are animated, but the in-game tactics animations, it seems really incredible. I'm looking at a video right now, and I'm seeing a Black Knight doing a shield charge move onto the ground, and the frames of animation that they put into this character is so detailed.
It's really detailed, and like everything combined with the sound, it feels like there's weightiness. Like when a guy swings an axe and it clangs off this guy's shield, you hear it. It feels like a real battle's happening. And there's always a little, maybe a splurt of blood. And I like how they deal with characters dying, falling in battle. It's not necessarily that characters die permanently like in a Fire Emblem style thing, but characters that are knocked out or hit 0 HP in battle are injured, and they can still fight in the future. Like they'll have a number of days that they're injured. Say, oh, he got a 2-day wound, let's say. For every day he has left to heal, he starts battles with 1 less strength. So you could bring him into battle, but he's going to be a little bit handicapped if you do that. And you could also just take time whenever you hit like a checkpoint and just say, well, let's rest another day and let everyone heal up maybe. But again, that ties into your food and your supplies. So you could be like, let's all heal up. Yeah, but we only have 6 days left of food, and it's going to take 2 days for them to heal. Are you sure you want to waste all those supplies? So these guys will be a couple of points ahead on their stats, you know?
Yeah, those are really interesting decisions that you have to make. Yeah. And I'm looking at the development studio who makes this. It's Stoic Studio, and they have about 13 employees, and they're actually headquartered here in Austin. How cool
awesome.
is that?
I want to swing by. When I head down to Austin, I would like a chance to maybe swing by and see that.
Yeah, let's try to check that out, see if that's a thing. Also,
I honestly should email. I honestly think that would be great.
Yeah, and, you know what, who knows? An even cooler tidbit. Apparently, Austin Wintory, the composer who did Journey and Flow, also made the music for this game.
Oh, okay.
Have you played Journey before, Casey?
I've heard of Journey. I never played it personally, no.
The soundtrack of Journey, which was on the PS3 and PS4, was actually an award-winning soundtrack.
Yeah, I can see that.
And it's so cool that Austin Wintory is lending his composing talent to this game.
Right. So honestly, 100%, this is a gold game for me. Everything about it, I love. I'm eating it up. And the fact that it ties in, like these sequels are all part of this continuing saga that I'm invested in and I want to carry out. I want to see how my decisions here have these long-term implications down the line. And it's just beautiful to watch, and I want to see what happens with these characters, and just pray that the people I like don't die. Because honestly, that's it has that great tension where even though I know characters don't necessarily die because I lose them in battles and it's not my choice, I feel like my decisions are going to affect that, and that's what's beauty. It's just how all those different gameplays tie together. Your story affects how you fight. How you travel affects the story and the fighting, and all the systems actually link up in different ways that it makes it feel like not just a choose your own adventure that breaks out into a fight once in a while.
Yeah. This is an incredibly impressive sounding game for such a small studio.
Definitely, guys, check it out if any one of those gameplay factors appeal to you. Because honestly, I think you could probably get by this game with very few fights if that's the way you want to play it. Like, if you're not interested in the fighting, I think you could possibly get by avoiding a lot of fights.
That's actually pretty awesome, to be fair. So, looks like Banner Saga 1 is $20 on the eShop. You think it's worth it?
Worth it.
Absolutely, totally worth it?
Worth it. No, worth it. Really is. I even think there's going to be replay value because I want to see what all the paths
that you'd want to take.
Because I made some big decisions already, and I had to choose sides in a certain fight here and there, and I'm curious what aligning myself with certain powers that be would that just put me on a different side of the same fight, or would that make me interact with characters in totally different ways? I am curious to see what different decisions, or if there's a way I could have saved a certain person's life here or there, that kind of thing. Interesting.
Yeah, honestly, you're really selling this to me. I kind of want to check it out too.
All right, so let's get a little word in. Let's check in on Inksplosion and what that's all about before we move on.
Sure. So just as a quick summary, Inksplosion is a twin stick shooter, kind of similar to games like Asteroids, or maybe a little bit like Geometry Wars. I'm just going to preface this by saying there's not that much to this game, even though I absolutely expected there to be more. The premise is that you're just a little character and you're shooting down characters in order to survive and get points. There are 3 modes that are practically the same. One, normal, where you're going through different stages to progress and defeating waves of enemies to move on to the next wave until you die. There's arena mode, which is essentially just a continuous way to play without any stops between waves. And then there's hard, which is just a difficulty bump for the normal mode. The basic gameplay is super simple. You're a character and you're shooting enemies, and once those enemies die, they give you points.
What kind of character are you? Are you like an actual thing, or are you just like a symbol?
The whole screen is completely black and white, and with lots of high contrast so you can see the enemies. But whenever you shoot a bullet, the pathway of the bullet leaves kind of an ink trail, so that eventually over time the screen is filled with bright colors from all the shots that you've thrown and all the explosions that your enemies die from. There's really no mechanic behind the ink. It's purely an aesthetic decision, which was incredibly disappointing to me because the game is called Inksplosion, and the ink itself is really not something that was necessary for this game.
Okay, so it's just purely like for appearances.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the most interesting mechanic about this is that you have a persistent health bar, and whenever you get hit, your health bar goes down by quite a bit. However, you can press the L trigger to slow down your enemies and the projectiles so you can avoid their attacks towards you. However, whenever you slow down time, that actually takes up a bit of your health as well. So it becomes a bit of a, managing health situation where you don't want to hold the time stop or time slow down button too long, or else your health will deplete too much. And that's kind of a balancing act from there. Okay,
so you have to kind of like weigh how much life am I going to lose by using this versus how much am I going to lose if I don't use this?
Right, exactly. And which is really the most interesting aspect of this game. After you defeat a specific wave in normal mode, your health replenishes. So you go into the new wave with more health, and then that continues until you die. But in the arena mode, really, it's just a continuous mode, so your health doesn't regenerate there. That's literally it.
So it's like you just go until you die, no
pretty much, yeah. There's 5, I believe it's 5 weapon types that you can play with. One from a big laser beam to a bit of a scatter shot to a single shot. They play differently, but none that would really diversify this game. And there are a bunch of achievements that you can unlock by performing well. Though in the Nintendo Switch infrastructure, the achievements don't really matter too much, and you can get them pretty quickly. I will say overall, that's pretty much all I can really discuss about this game. It's $5. I would not spend $5 on this.
Okay, one of those, yeah.
Yeah, I would at most $2, if that. I feel like there are free experiences on the mobile platform or even on the Switch that have more depth than this.
Okay, so they didn't really, I mean, it's just a colorful, like, what would you even call the genre? Is it like a twin stick?
It's a twin stick shooter. It's like Geometry Wars, but with less enemy diversity and, it's very vanilla.
Okay, all right. Well, we've been hitting a few of those. You've been delving into the budget games for a couple of weeks in a row now, and you came up with one that was worth it, and a couple so far that have been,
you get what you pay for sometimes, but with this case, I even think the $5 price tag is not worth it. Now, this game is out in other consoles, and some people actually use Inksplosion to get like the platinum trophy or 1,000 gamer points. So for other platforms, it's essentially pay $5 to get 1,000 gamer points for your gamer score. But on the Switch, that doesn't matter at all. So it's kind of a pass for me.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, sometimes that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
All right, well, we have another game to talk about. We're going to save that for the next section because it's something special. And so let's catch our breaths and move into the news rundown.
Let's do it.
Here comes our
right, news rundown. And actually, we're going to start with something different this week because we're going to kick things off with a Pokemon Center. Oh yeah, bringing back the old soundtracks.
All right. Wow, we haven't done this in a while, have we, Casey?
We have not since our previous entirely titled podcast, yes, because there was a ton. This was a week of Pokemon reveals just yesterday, nicely enough.
It feels so nice to be able to legitimately talk about Pokemon on the podcast.
Always, yes.
I'm so pumped.
And these were pretty surprising because they kept under their hats exactly what kind of games they would be, because we all assumed that they were just working on the next mainline game and maybe some more side games for 3DS. But what they revealed this week were a slew of surprising games, including one that was released that very day that we already got to start playing.
Yeah, so, I know there were, like, patent leaks of Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, but we had no idea what was involved with that. But now we know, and it's pretty fascinating what we saw.
Yeah, so, now Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. That was the first thing, and it had a pretty cool trailer with the kid chasing the Pikachu through the real world into his TV, and, I'm still not 100% clear on how this game will work, but it is still interesting that it looks like it's a 3D RPG style game.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and it seems like it is a recreation of Pokemon Yellow, but with a different capturing style.
And also, so they did specify that, it looks like a very one-for-one almost 3D recreation of the Kanto region. And I believe that only the Kanto Pokemon will be in this game. So it is the original 151. And but it doesn't seem like they specified that the gameplay and the whole story is different. Even though it is kind of like the Pokemon Red, Green, Yellow world, it's not the same story, and it is a totally different gameplay. In fact, catching Pokemon is going to be more like Pokemon Go style catching Pokemon, as we see people just throw Pokeballs, and you have to do that same aiming reticle sort of thing and timing, and I wonder how you're gonna put the curveball on it.
That's I'm pretty sure it's gonna be some sort of motion control based thing. Yeah.
So there's that. But they did at the same time show battles where there were traditional style looking Pokemon battles in the same game.
It's definitely interesting because I don't think you'll be battling, or it's confirmed that you're not battling wild Pokemon. You're only battling against trainers, which is a different take, definitely. It's a big change.
Right. So now that right there draws this question out of me. If there's no battling in the wild, how are you leveling up or powering up your Pokemon for the battles? Or is there going to be some sort of endless stream of trainers battles that you can do if you ever want to like level up your guys or something like that?
Yeah. I'm not sure we have enough details to go after that, but I'm wondering if it's similar to the Pokemon Go system, where the more of a specific Pokemon you catch, the stronger you can make that Pokemon be.
It might be, because I do know that there might be a few more links between the games, because one of the other things we learned is you can, confirmed, transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Go into your Let's Go Pokemon game, though not vice versa. And only you can transfer Pokemon that are, the original 151.
Yeah, which is interesting because we don't have that many details regarding that functionality as well. People are speculating on both sides about how much you can use the Pokemon you get from Go. It looked like whenever you sent a Pokemon from your Go device to the Switch, it gets sent to a Pokemon Go park. And that's its own separate thing.
It might be something like that, right? Just a park, you take them for the walk, like a little side game, and then go back to, whatever, or...
Yes.
That's right. They can't go back to the Pokemon Go game, so it is only a one-way transfer. So it might be, maybe it's closer to like Pokemon Ranch, where they just kind of wander around and you build up them.
Now, what I think, I don't think the Pokemon that you catch in Go will actually be usable in the Switch version because of this Go Park. It's really weirdly segmented. But my theory is that whenever you transfer Pokemon from the Go to the Switch, that Pokemon will allow you to maybe grind up candy to power up your Pokemon in the Switch itself. So the more you catch, let's say, Abras in the wild, in the real world, you can transfer them into the Switch and power up your Abra in the game. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, right. Because you just need the candies to level them up in Pokemon Go, and transferring might just be a way to, get whatever candy or candy equivalent in the game to level up the guys that you caught in Let's Go in order to fight with.
Yeah, that seems like the most feasible solution to me. What do you think about that?
It's possible. I do think that they're probably going to use the stats. The stats are probably going to be the same because I don't think Pokemon Go is even equipped to, in some way, to give them the full stats of a full game. So
right. And looking at the battle system against trainers, it looks like a flat out copy of the original turn-based strategy battle system.
Yeah, well, that's what's got me confused because now I'm like, all right, so how? Let's say if the Pokemon in this game do have the stats similar to Pokemon Go, or do you think they're going to have standard Pokemon game stats?
I think it's going to be standard Pokemon game stats. I don't really think that Pokemon Go's stat system or battle system will even translate over to this whatsoever. And that's why any Pokemon you send from Go to the Switch will be segmented apart from all of the Pokemon that you catch in the Switch. I feel like that's a big reason why there's a segment, and I'm honestly okay with that.
Now, also interesting, they showed off the couch co-op opportunity in the game, where a second player can join in just by picking up the other Joy-Con, as they showed that you only need one Joy-Con in order to play the game, and so someone could take the other one and just join in. You see they'll instantly just fade in on the screen, so you'll have the two characters running around, explore the maps together. You can actually join together to catch Pokemon, and you can both try to throw, and I think you support each other's, catch odds if you throw at the same time or something like that.
This is actually the first co-op Pokemon experience then, if you think about it. First co-op Pokemon experience in a pseudo mainline game, right?
Yeah, I'll say that. It's the first definitely co-op against, or PvE option, because the only other time you could do anything close to co-op in a previous one was versus 2v2 players.
Right. Or go co-oping in a Battle Frontiers or and that type of stuff. Or if you even count stuff like Pokemon Rumble. But this is the first time you can go through a seemingly full adventure with a co-op partner, which is very different.
It is. This whole game looks like it's going to play in a very different kind of style, but it is just very animated. It brings a lot of life to these locations because, before, the most we've gotten to see these worlds in 3D on the 3DS, and those look great, and they definitely added another level to them, especially compared to the 2D versions before. But now that this is the full Switch level 3D and the level of graphics, these cities just look so alive. It looks like a cartoon running around on the screen, honestly.
Yeah. I think it looks great, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, Casey. I suspect that they made this game just so that they can use the Pokemon engine they developed for the 3DS one more time. Because, because a lot of the elements and, the perspective and the models of the 3DS games are very similar, if not exactly the same to this one. And that means that they're more than likely using the X and Y engine for this game.
Maybe.
Which also has another implication, meaning they might be developing a completely different engine for the full-fledged Pokemon game that's coming out next year. I have a lot of theories for this.
Very feasible. I think I think that's a pretty solid theory. I could see that. I do think that they would be building a completely new engine for the Switch. That's pretty much for sure. Them using the 3DS engine for this is an interesting analysis as well, though.
It looks very similar, you can tell.
Yeah, but it does look like they've been trying to purposely make this game more approachable and trying to attract people. I guess it's almost like bridging the gap, because Pokemon Go players are the most, in general, I would say, are the most casual of the casual Pokemon fans. They don't, a lot of them, that might be the only Pokemon experience they have, and they don't know really about how to like do strategies of team makeups and how to do different moves, and they don't even have status effects or anything like that. This is supposed to be a game that's not taking you into full-fledged Pokemon strategy RPG kind of gameplay, but it is supposed to be a thing that's a little more combative, more than the battle mode in Pokemon Go, where it's like tap tap swipe, you know.
Yeah.
It's supposed to add them a little bit more and maybe bridge the gap before the next mainline game comes out.
That's definitely a good perspective, I think, because you're right. This is the middle ground between Go and a hardcore Pokemon RPG.
It's kind of funny to call any Pokemon game hardcore, though.
I mean, yeah, but you have to admit, there is a degree of hardcoreness you can go into Pokemon if you really want to. You can go,
yes. Yeah. But let's never forget that they are games that many of us picked up when we were like 12.
Yeah, children. Yeah. It's just, I think this game is streamlined so that it could be approachable for the more casual audience.
Yeah. I think also it's pretty cool they did with the mascot characters of each of the games. You can dress them up. I think that was kind of cute, like the different outfits.
Yeah.
The Eevee and the Pikachu.
Do we know if that's only for Eevee and Pikachu? I feel like it's
only for Eevee and Pikachu.
A sad face.
Yes. And you cannot evolve your starter Pikachu or Eevee, but you can evolve other ones along the way, and they will travel on you. Like Pikachu will hang off your shoulder, or Eevee will be on your hat if you have them in your party while traveling around.
It does actually look like you can ride or have other Pokemon follow you around too. Because in the video, you can see that you're riding Charizard, you're riding Onix, you're riding Lapras. I think you had like a Haunter or a Ghost Pokemon walking behind you. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I'm glad that they're bringing that into this.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check this out.
I'm going to be completely honest. When this was first announced, like when we were first looking at the initial gameplay videos, I was disappointed.
Well, I mean, I can see that. It's not what people want. But
yeah. I was like, if this is the new Pokemon hardline game, I'm betting the internet's going to be really upset. But once they announced that a Pokemon RPG, a dedicated Pokemon RPG in the mainline is coming out next year, that alleviated my concern.
Exactly. And that is one of the things they announced, which is definitely it's something they had to do.
Absolutely. If they didn't, people would riot.
Oh, and let's not forget the other little thing they showed off in here, the Pokeball Plus.
Oh man, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to get it. It's such a neat little gadget.
If I didn't have the gotcha, I would probably consider getting this. I do like this better than the regular Pokemon Go Plus.
Yeah, and I like that it's a little controller. It's kind of its own Joy-Con, to be honest.
Yeah, it has a little joystick. You can play the game completely with it. It has motion control, so you can throw the Pokeball in the game with it. And you can actually load one of your Pokemon in the game into the Pokeball and take it for a walk with you.
Kind of like the Pokewalker back in Heart Gold Soul Silver.
I'm gonna say, yeah, it's like that. I'm gonna assume it's kind of like when you have the, in Pokemon Go, you can set a buddy Pokemon, and it will give you candy as you walk it. I'm gonna assume it's, gonna do something similar to that, where you can walk around with a Pokemon in the ball, and it's just your buddy Pokemon, and it will earn you candy as you walk.
These are all welcome features to me. And the Pokeball itself, the build quality looks fun and looks good. I feel like having a Pokeball strapped to my belt while I'm walking around feels kind of immersive in a way.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, if it's somehow linked in, I guess it does kind of link with if you just hit the button, you can catch your Pokemon in the wild. I would love it if I could throw it at the iPhone, but that would be too much.
That's a little bit extra, Casey.
Yeah. No, but that's really cool.
Yeah, so it's coming out on November 16th. You can pre-order it now. And there was a mention of a special friend Pokemon.
That's talking about your starter guy, your starter Pokemon.
Oh, wait, no.
Oh, no, sorry. No, sorry. Yes,
yeah.
they mentioned, yes, there was that little teaser that they're going to be releasing it was like a gift box that was opening up, and it sounded like some rare or special Pokemon would be available in there.
So apparently I believe there's official word that it's actually a new Pokemon.
A new Pokemon.
Yeah. Ooh, fancy schmancy. We'll see. We'll see how it is. But
I will say, though, it's funny, though, the one reaction I heard from several people was that they were just disappointed this wasn't a Pokemon Red or, like you said, Yellow remake. A lot of people are very hungry to play that in a modern, like, 3D kind of setting. And,
honestly, I'm fine with this.
No, I think I don't think we need a remake of that just yet. Honestly, they've made remakes of it. I think that it doesn't need to be brought into the 3D world. Like, it's part of its charm was the simplicity of the graphics back then and the simplicity of the system back then. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Honestly, we can just go back to Kanto in a future game. I think I'd prefer just to go back to Kanto rather than just remake that game with, the 3D graphics.
Yeah.
But hey, nostalgia.
Oh, nostalgia does sell.
The other game that they announced and was instantly available to download was Pokemon Quest, which did kind of harken back to, what was it, Pokemon Rumble that we played way back in the day.
A little bit. A little bit.
That's what it looked like. At least at first blush, I was thinking, oh, is this like Pokemon Rumble? Which I actually did not like as a game back then. So I was actually really glad to see that this is something totally different and is actually going to be also available on mobile in the near future.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I feel like this game I would probably prefer on a mobile platform than on the Switch itself.
Okay. I can see that. I mean, it does have a lot of the systems that you would associate with a mobile game. This really does feel like a game that was built for that, but does seem
brought
to have
over
a pretty,
to the Switch.
Does seem like it has a decent little home on the Switch here. I think it's a pretty good
absolutely.
Place. So, it starts off, it's basically you are an explorer on an island looking for treasure kind of thing.
Yeah, I believe the island's name is Tumblecube Island.
Yes, right.
So really silly. All the Pokemon have been cubified and they look pretty cute or demented based on your opinion.
And you set up a little camp. And it's a camp you can get decorations for, and you could also start cooking stuff. So there's like a pot, and you could throw in different items, and then over time that will attract new Pokemon to join your collection. But the main action is when you want to go explore the island and uncover its treasures, you go into this weird kind of laissez-faire battle mode.
Yeah, and I thought the battle mode was interesting, but I didn't feel like it was incredibly deep so far.
No, it's definitely a very simple, laid back kind of battle mode with just a touch of action, just a little touch of player interaction sprinkled in, so that whatever Pokemon you bring in, up to 3, they just kind of automatically home in on the nearest enemies, and they just march up to them and they start brawling. And each
Pokemon has its own different behavior based on what type of Pokemon it is. So some Pokemon have prefer attacking up close, while some prefer having attacks from a distance. Other Pokemon have area of effect attacks that circle around them, and some have distance attacks. It has a bit of a variety in that sense. Mm-hmm.
Most of the time they'll just auto attack. But you'll have up to 2 different buttons for, let's say, MOBA style attacks that you can activate at will when you think the timing is right. So yeah, one of them I chose, you get to choose a first starter Pokemon, and I chose from the selection of, we had Squirtle, Charmander, Bulbasaur, Eevee, and Pikachu. And I chose my Squirtle, as always. Yeah. And I had this 2 starting attacks. I could do a tackle where he dives and he closes a long distance gap pretty fast, slams for some damage. And then there was my water spout or whatever it was. I think maybe let's just say it's bubble attack. I forget which one it was called, but it would create 2 little pillars of water that circle him for a few seconds, and they can do some repeat damage to guys. It's good for when I got surrounded.
You do have the option to scatter your Pokemon. It's a button you press.
Yes.
And if you see your Pokemon are about to get hit by a devastating attack from an enemy, you can have them scatter, and that dodges the attacks and puts them in a better position.
Yeah.
So you're ultimately managing your Pokemon. You don't actually move them, but you manage their attacks. You manage the cooldowns, and you make sure to dodge whenever you see something coming that could hurt you.
Or you hit the auto button and you let the computer even control that.
Yes, and that's something you would do if you want to grind out the resources that are in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can just grind things out because it does have a very, mobile game tycoon sim kind of gameplay loop. You go in to these places, you go grind some battles, you get resources, you bring them back, and then you use those to build up your camp, which unlocks new things. Maybe you'll get some equipable items or more powerful Pokemon, so you can go back into exploring harder areas, get better items, repeat over and over again. So,
right.
There's also a premium currency in this game, and you can use that for speeding up timers and for unlocking or just flat out buying better decorations and stuff like that. Right.
So I didn't spend any money so far, but I heard that there's actually a maximum cap of how much you can spend in the game. So it's interesting how they utilize that system instead of an endless income stream like most mobile games do.
I'm sure the cap is within a certain time limit, though.
Yeah,
so
I believe. Yeah. Well, I believe there's a maximum of $40 you can spend on this game. If you spend up to that amount, it unlocks whatever everything for you. Something like that.
Oh, something like that. So if it has a cap where it just unlocks everything, that's another story. Okay, I see. I think that's probably wisest. I mean, you don't want a Pokemon game ever being associated with kid spends $5,000 of his parents' money. That's always such bad press.
And I gotta say, the gameplay of Pokemon Quest isn't incredibly deep, and it's not something I feel like I would sit down and spend hours on, like a standard Pokemon RPG. But I feel like this is an excellent game for you to just pick up and play, to progress bit by bit each time. And it's based on how appealing you find the art style. I think it'd be a fun investment in that way.
I think it's the kind of game that the Switch, honestly, I feel like needs a kind of game like this. I've always said like it needs just a relaxing mobile free-to-play experience, like some sort of tycoon game. And a lot of people like those. They just like having something that they could turn on and just kind of mindlessly manage, let me collect my daily bonus of this or, that, and, let me use up my energy or whatever it would be in those kind of games. In this, you could play it offline, which is a great boost to that also. I like that it doesn't require internet connection, which a lot of those games do, even if you want to spend the game's hard currency. And, it's just a casual thing. Sometimes I just need to sit down, especially when I'm stressed out at work or something's going on in life, and I just need to sit down and do something very mindless that I don't feel bad about because I didn't spend money on it. It's just cute. It's stupid, mindless fun. And, it makes me feel like I'm progressing. I can load it up every day and just see like, oh, what new Pokemon did I attract today? Or, did I unlock a new dungeon level to enter? Let me try this combination of Pokemon and this equipment. Little things like that. Obviously, it's not the kind of game I'm going to go head over heels for, but you know what? Since I downloaded it for free, it's going to be on my home screen, and just any day I just feel like I don't want to take on anything deep today. I'm going to play a few minutes of it.
Yeah, I agree. And there's always room for games like this, especially if it's not incredibly predatory with its microtransactions.
Yeah, I think that spending cap you mentioned, that's a very wise decision, honestly. Just here's the most you could spend if you just want to have everything in the game.
Every little bonus, yeah.
One thing I just feel like it might be missing right now is any level of multiplayer interaction. Like, I don't think it needs like a full-on like social team-up kind of mode, but it would be nice if it had some mode
you can cooperate with people.
Either, like some of the games let you borrow a friend's Pokemon or trade items or just something to let you feel like you're connecting to other people with it.
I wonder if the mobile version of this game will include stuff like that.
Maybe. That would be
just because
smart.
It will have the option to be always online. And for me, I feel like this is something that has such minimal gameplay that I would actually kind of prefer it on the phone instead of on the Switch, just so that I can pull it out of my pocket to do very small bursts instead of bigger bursts.
I think that will definitely be a strength of this game. I just feel like I already have games like that on my phone. I just feel like I want something like that on Switch. At least one game like that on my Switch.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And this could be it.
It might be. I'm slightly digging it. It's not great, I guess, but it's a free game, so obviously it comes with that, whatever that entails, so it's not going to be amazing.
Yeah, and what I found hilarious was that Golem a notoriously round rock Pokemon is a cube. It's just a cube block. It's hilarious.
All right, but that's what that is. We'll see how that goes in the future. I'm sure we'll both dabble with it here and there, and we'll see if it actually goes anywhere in the future. And it's the kind of game I feel like we'll constantly have little updates that we could talk about like every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
All right, so that's everything for the Pokemon Center. Let's move into some other headlines.
All right, so it looks like we're not getting any dockless Nintendo Switches over here in the West. So it seems like that's going to be a Japan-only sale, but I don't think it's really necessary for the West quite yet. I
think it also ties into, like we said last week, we mentioned how people don't necessarily need the dock there because they probably play even more portably than we do here, and they have all their internet access all over. Whereas here, if internet's going to be a thing, you have to have it at home or someplace where there's a dock anyway. So it's just not as necessary of a SKU, unless they are just holding off on this here because they have a whole other type of package they want to like prepare for us.
Who knows? Maybe
they're going to sell us a double dock, a double dock pack for people who the double dock for people who want one in their upstairs and downstairs TV.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Data mining into Mario Tennis Aces has revealed that there are 26 potential characters in the game, at least as of right now, with more probably going to come down the line. A lot of them we've seen before, but a lot of these, we got Kamek, Shy Guy, Chain Chomp we saw. Who's Boom Boom? Is that the Babam? Or is that like a giant Babam?
I don't know. Boom Boom is actually, I think he's one of the Bowser kids. Or just a Bowser little turtle dude enemy.
Oh, okay. That's weird. I don't know that one. Dry Bones, Blooper, whole bunch of them. So 26 different characters already in the code there for people to play with, which is going to be pretty cool. Oh yeah, did you get to check this out? This actually just went live. Mi Studio is now a part of the your My Nintendo site. If you go to that, they now have a Mi Maker on there with all the options that you are used to having to customize your own Mii and to make some extras. It seems a little odd because honestly, I thought they would put an app like this right onto your Switch itself a little more.
Well, they had to do something with the Miitomo software, I guess.
Maybe. I just thought it'd be, if they were going to expand this or make some new option, they would maybe integrate a new app on the Switch itself. But it just seems like they made it so that people can make them on the PC. And I don't know if this is going to tie into anything in the future since this just went live on the website. Are they going to start pulling your collection of Miis from your account into games? So if you make a bunch of characters and they know you're logged in as KC or you're logged in as JV, let me go pull all of JV's characters from his My Nintendo account.
Yeah, that's likely it. It's good to have this information in a unified location, so that it could be consistent in any Switch platform in the future. Like, if you think about it, they're integrating cloud saves onto the new Nintendo Online infrastructure, so this might very well be a part of that.
As long as they have a way to share and trade them, because especially like say me and my wife, we both probably would want the same Miis to appear in the games, depending on, regardless of which one of us is playing. So it would be nice if I could just say, all right, copy all of mine over to her account or something like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or so I can give you like, oh, look, I made a really cool Laurel. Why don't you take my Laurel?
She'll take your Laurel any day.
All right. So that's it for the headlines, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
You want to hit the updates here?
All right, so we got a couple of updates as well. Looks like we're getting the 4 new Splatoon 2 weapons.
That includes the Custom Dual Squelcher, the Rapid Blaster Elite Deco, Undercover Umbrella, and the Carbon Roller Deco.
Now, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is also getting an expansion pass update. And it looks like we're getting more quests that people could do if they have the expansion pass.
Yeah, so you have to have the expansion pass to access these. They're also available only after certain chapters, so they have one that's for, chapter 3 or later, 5, 7, 10, a few other little requirements on them, so Can't axe them all right away, but I think anyone at this point, especially those who have the pass, probably are already at a point at which they can access these.
It's interesting that there's a couple that are available after Chapter 10, which I believe is the last chapter. So
yeah, so some endgame stuff. I wonder if
very interesting.
It might be good if there's some challenges to do with your all maxed out blades. All right, what are the new releases this week, JV?
All right, so today, May 31st, we are getting Smoke and Sacrifice, Milan Noir, Pirate Pop Plus, Just Shapes and Beats, West of Loathing, Quad Fighters K, Lost Sea, Masked Forces, Songbringer, The Trial of Ren, Defoliation, Icy, Neo Geo Ninja Combat, Johnny Turbo's Arcade, Joe and Mac Caveman Ninja, and World Soccer Pinball. So on June 5th, we are getting The Infectious Madness of Dr. Decker, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, and Happy Birthdays! Woo! On June 6th, we're getting Shape of the World, and on June 7th, we are getting Banner Saga 2.
I know it's not a long game, so I am going to try to beat Banner Saga 1 in time.
For Banner Saga 2?
Yeah, I wanna at least see how my stuff transfers over. I might not play it through, but I want to at least start Banner Saga 2 by that time.
Yeah, and then Banner Saga 3 is coming out sometime in late July, so you have time to beat that as well.
Yeah, like I said, they're not super long, but I still think there's a lot to them, so I think they're still worth the play. Down the pipe, alright, so they announced, Yomawari, the Long Night Collection. This was a game I played actually on Vita, and it's a really cool, creepy game about a little girl I believe she's looking for her lost dog or something, and, but she's looking in a world filled with yokai type ghosts and demons and very scary things, and it's a cute animation style, but it's cuteness combined with very creepy, disturbing kind of yokai ghosts.
Yeah, very cool art style.
Were you ever a fan of the Team Sonic Racing series? Cause they just announced that coming to Switch in the future.
Yeah, they were actually really quality games, I have to say. A lot of people, even before Mario Kart 8 came out, they actually said that they preferred the Sonic Racing over Mario Kart. That was during the Mario Kart Wii days, though, where Mario Kart as a franchise was kind of on a low point. But it got good enough of a reception where people liked it better than Mario Kart Wii.
Interesting. I'll have to give it a shot just to compare myself.
Yeah.
In October, we're getting Lego DC Supervillains. And
cool.
Mega Man 11 coming out October 2nd. Very hot item for a lot of people.
Yes! I'm so excited for this. Oh my gosh, I watched the trailer 16 times today.
I am very impressed with the graphic stylings of this, honestly. When I looked at this actually reminded me of what Mighty Number 9 should have been.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. We were all kind of making jokes about how Capcom has kind of abandoned Mega Man as a franchise, but seeing this and seeing how much love went into all of the animations, all into the movement, into what seems to be really interesting level design, the boss designs, I am so pumped.
Great 3D art, great effects, and the bosses they showed off, they're not just your typical bosses. They kind of break a lot of the boundaries that normal ones, the Robot Masters would do.
Yeah, and they retain the aesthetic of the original Mega Mans while updating it to a level that I am so pleased with. Well, they also introduced a new mechanic in the double gear system, which is, it's incredibly cool that they're willing to update Mega Man's core capabilities with this system.
Yeah, so this looked like it has also the bullet time feature to slow down the action when you really need to figure out your
that's
jumps
the blue
and stuff.
gear, and then they have the red gear as well, which powers up his firepower. And if you get low health, you kind of pull off a limit break move that lets you charge up a super powered shot to do one last hurrah before you get close to dying. And
very cool.
I'm so pumped. You have no idea, Casey.
I mean, it's always exciting when it's a new Mega Man game, but when it's one that looks like they're doing something new with, which is very rare for a Mega Man game. That's just not what they do. It's just...
Yeah, I agree. And it's not even just that. In some past Mega Man games, they've done new things, but it's been really gimmicky.
Yeah.
With this really looks like it's an evolution of the core Mega Man gameplay, and I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited that they didn't go with some weirdly gimmicky route like in the later Mega Man X games. This is just, I can talk about this all day.
It's just like Mega Man with extra production values. Like really.
Extra production values, updated graphics, updated, and more modernized platforming philosophies. It's good stuff. I'm pleased.
So yeah, again, that's October 2nd. Shelter Generations is getting a physical release, but it's only 3,000 copies. So keep an eye out for that if that is a game that you want to have in a physical hardware. Night and Day is coming out, it's announced for spring 2019. It's a really crazy though kind of, it kind of looks like Temple Run, but you're two characters that you control simultaneously. So it looks very mind-boggling trying to, because you control them at the same time. So it's like, all right, this guy needs to move left, but when I move him left, she moves to the right. And now she needs to jump over this thing. But when she jumps, he jumps. So it's just like, you have to control them both. Keep in mind what both of them are going to do. So yeah.
I always kind of have a difficult time with these types of games, but they're interesting to see.
All right, so let's stop there, catch our breath, close out the show with our community pulse.
Sounds good to me.
All right, community pulse. There were a lot of interesting and strong reactions to all of the Pokemon news this week, so we wanted to just kind of read off what a few of your opinions were.
Ooh, there's quite a bit of heated discussion in the Facebook group for this, and I'm going to read Jeffrey Kappenberg's initial post, which I'll say is negative, but does bring up a few interesting points we could talk about. He says, "It's Pokemon Go without the GPS features that made it special, and the core games without the depth. And of course, it's all Gen 1 pandering, despite the fact that Go is now up to Gen 3, so they can't even do compatibility rights. I haven't seen something this crassly commercial since Minions."
Oof,
Yeah, incendiary, and starting right off the bat, too.
I mean, I don't know if I'd go that strong, but I mean, first off, no one's really buying this game because of the Pokemon Go connectivity. I think that's just like an extra thing. I don't think that that's a major selling point of it, so I don't weigh that in. I don't even know what the gameplay of it really is yet. I don't know how much of it's going to be this catching versus what the battle system's going to be. So I'm really not ready to be that angry, but I will just kind of harken back to what I said before, that there's so many people I know that just want to see a game that's Pokemon Kanto, revised. And I think that this is going to be feeding those people. I mean, I guess you can call it pandering, but I mean, if that's what people are really hungry for, especially those who haven't played a lot of Pokemon games, this will feed their hunger. Whereas we're all set to really look for the next, mainline 2019 game.
Yeah. So I feel like, I kind of understand where the negativity can come from. Cause initially when I first saw this game be revealed, I'm, as I mentioned previously, I was kind of let down by it. I didn't want this to be the mainline Pokemon games that we were going to go into the Switch future with. But once I understood what they were going for, and once I kind of, came to grips with the fact that this isn't a mainline game, we're getting a full-fledged mainline game next year, I became much more willing to accept this for what it is. And we already laid out how we feel about it being kind of a bridge and, a more fun experience. Now, I do want to say this definitely seems more in-depth than Pokemon Go. And I feel like, you're exploring Kanto, and we haven't even seen how gyms are handled, and we know that the combat system, outside of just catching Pokemon, is still the standard battle system that we expect, so.
I just kind of file this in the same area of my brain that I file like mystery dungeon games. I don't play them, but I'm glad they exist because other people like them, and it brings other people into, the Pokemon world in its own way.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. But with this, I feel like since it's tied closer to the main games than those normal ones. I'm excited about this more than I would something like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon or Pokemon Rumble.
Okay, very cool. Daniel Malik wrote, I'm pretty happy with today's announcements. I played an hour or so of Pokemon Quest tonight, and it was pretty fun. Looking forward to its mobile release so I can definitely not play at work, right? The Let's Go games aren't exactly my cup of tea, but I might check them out.
Okay, so Carrie Jane said in our Facebook group, I'm going to pass on Pokemon Let's Go. I'm not a fan of motion controls, and I don't have Pokemon Go, so it seems kind of pointless for me. Now, I actually want to go over that fact. I don't feel like Pokemon Go is a necessity to enjoy Let's Go. I feel like it's just a tertiary experience. The only motion control that I see is integrated into the catching mechanic. And who knows, there might even be a way to completely avoid motion controls altogether. So
actually you can avoid the motion controls because it is compatible with playing it totally in handheld mode, and they don't want you shaking your Switch and dropping it because of that. So there is an option where you don't have to use the motion controls.
Yeah, okay, so that kind of alleviates that particular concern. The fact that the battle system from the original games are still in here. I feel like, Carrie, I think it's worth keeping an eye on in the future regardless.
All right, and that's all the feedback here. I just want to remind everybody, if you want to add your own feedback to not only the Community Pulse, but maybe to our podcast, because I'm going to try to start reading more of your opinions about every episode of the SwitchCast. So please feel free to comment on our Facebook posts for each episode, and I'm going to look at those, and I'd love to read your opinions and maybe your feedback, corrections, whatever. And just so join the Facebook group or go on Twitter and leave your comments there so we can share them here.
Absolutely. It's definitely very great to add to the conversation whenever we bring up a point or discuss something on the podcast itself. We want to hear what you guys think about what we say. So it's very fun to engage in the community that way. So reach out to us through those channels.
And finally, System Switch. We both picked games that have not come to the Switch. Maybe they never will, but we'd like to see on there. And I think we've both fit in with the theme of some Pokemon games that could use a switch over. And
I feel like it was appropriate.
Yes, I think so. It was a very, very Pokemon episode. And I have to go with the one that I always wanted to play the most, but I never actually was able to fit into my repertoire, was Pokemon Conquest.
Oh.
I mean, this totally fits everything I've been playing lately. I've talking about I want a good tactics game, and I've been playing the Banner Saga, and this actually kind of goes in that world where it is a tactics game. It perfectly utilizes Pokemon in that, they all have their different moves, but that, it's not just here's some damage thing. It has range. They have their, type advantages. You actually have to set up guys, like large teams, just to defend areas while you attack other areas of the map. There's a storyline with characters, and it has a little bit of a Fire Emblem feel, but I don't know. It's a game I always wanted to try. It was such a unique spin on their formula that actually worked out, and I just feel like I want it on Switch because I missed out on it on 3DS.
Honestly, who would have known that a Pokemon and Nobunaga's Ambition crossover would work like this? Isn't that so crazy?
It does take place in the feudal Japan era, and in the Nobunaga's Revenge storyline, and it's just so many things combined. That's so weird, but It just worked out so beautifully.
Honestly, I love the aesthetic, and I love that the armor of each individual unit is kind of akin to the Pokemon partner that they have. I dug that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now
they all kind of like look like their pet Pokemon.
Yeah, which is cool. Now, for me, it's a classic. I think a lot of people can see this coming. I chose Pokemon Snap. If anyone doesn't know what Pokemon Snap is, it's essentially an on-rails shooter, but instead of shooting bullets, You're shooting pictures with a camera. The object of the game is for you to go through a course, an on-rails course, taking the best pictures of Pokemon in the wildlife as possible until you reach the end of the course, have Professor Oak grade your shots, and get a score from there. Now, while it does sound kind of lame right now to go through and play Pokemon photography, it was actually a ton of fun back then. When you went into Pokemon Snap, it kind of felt like you were living in the Pokemon world, and that was fascinating.
It also had that brilliant little puzzle aspect where it wasn't just you trying to take the best picture, it was trying to figure out how to get Pokemon to take action so they would pose in better situations, because you could throw different like pester balls and other kinds of lures and stuff, and you'd figure out like, oh, you'd see this group over here of these, Pokemon sleeping. Oh, how do I wake them up, and how do I get them to line up perfectly with this here? And you would go through the same stages over and over. Just relax. There's no pressure, but you would just go over them and just try to think, oh, what can I do and mess around with here to cause better pictures to show up?
Yeah, and it was a ton of fun, and there was even a puzzle of manipulating the Pokemon with your tools in order for you to unlock the next stage. Like, there was one level in Pokemon Snap where you had to pester one of those electrodes, and once you pester them enough, they explode, opening up a gateway to the next stage. And I thought that was super cool and fascinating, even though I kind of ignored the fact that we kind of murdered a Pokemon.
Fainted. Remember, it's fainted.
Fainted, yes. Caused it to explode and faint itself permanently.
Excellent choice. All right. Well, that is our show this week, so I hope you all enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it. I'm so glad we got to talk about Pokemon again. And until next time,
stay out of the tall grass. Thanks for listening. You can support the SwitchCast by visiting us at patreon.com/theswitchcast and join the review crew by rating us and subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Also check out our Discord chat where we have an enthusiastic bunch of Switch fans in a family-friendly environment. Also join our Facebook group for daily discussion and quite a bit of activity towards the Switch itself.
You can also contact us directly via email at kc@theswitchcast.com and jv@theswitchcast.com. Talk to us on Twitter @theswitchcast.
Thank you, HeatleyBros, for the theme music. And check us out on our website at theswitchcast.com, where we will post all relevant links and show notes.
Promotional considerations provided by publishers in the form of review copies of games. Okay, before we continue, I'm gonna go kiss my wife.
Should I stop the recording?
No, keep recording.